Did the James Webb Telescope spot an unnatural object out in space? Well, just back in September of this year, there was this wave of excitement online as a rumor spread that the James Webb Telescope had spotted a large moving object about 10 light years away from Earth, possibly an alien spaceship. Now, according to various posts, this mysterious object exhibited an unnatural change in trajectory, leading many to wonder if this was some sort of alien craft or a piece of technology. There were also claims that members of Congress were being briefed about this discovery by the National Security Agency and the US Department of Defense. The details of this briefing were said to be kept under wraps from the public, of course. As this story started circulating, UFO enthusiasts joined the conversation. On September 21st, US Rep. Andre Carson, who had previously led a congressional hearing on unidentified aerial phenomena, was asked about the JWST briefing, but he had no comment, which of course just got people even more curious than before. NASA hasn't released any information about detecting this mysterious object, but could they be covering something up to avoid mass panic? There's also been some recent talk about the James Webb Space Telescope finding signs of life on a distant planet called K2-18b. But scientists at the University of California, Riverside say the excitement might be a little premature. While we all want to find hard evidence of alien life on a distant planet, at least most of us anyway, it looks like we might have to hold our breaths a little longer. That doesn't mean there isn't interesting news to talk about though. K2-18b is pretty cool. It's about 120 light years away, a super Earth with 8 times the mass of our planet, and it sits in its star's habitable zone. This means it might have water, and where there's water, there very well could be life. The planet also has temperatures that are very similar to Earth's, so that's another good sign. The James Webb also spotted some interesting stuff in its atmosphere, like carbon dioxide and methane. One of the biggest finds was something called dimethyl sulfide, or DMS, which is made by tiny ocean plants. The fact that DMS has been detected in the atmosphere means there could very well be life producing it. Scientists are continuing to observe the planet with different tools on the James Webb to get a clearer picture. They believe that if life does exist there, it might show up in ways we don't see here on Earth. So even though this isn't exactly the news and breakthrough we were hoping for, it's still a step in the right direction in our never-ending search for life beyond our planet. The James Webb Telescope spotted distant galaxies that aren't supposed to be there. Well, that sounds ominous. These galaxies, visible as tiny reddish dots in the deep field images, are packed with mature red stars and appear to be from a time just 500 to 700 million years after the Big Bang. Typically, astronomers expected to find young, small galaxies from the universe's infancy, formed shortly after the so-called Dark Ages, when the universe was filled with a thick fog of hydrogen. Instead, JWST's observations showed galaxies that are not just large, but also much older than anticipated. We had specific expectations for the type of galaxies that live in the early universe. They are young and small, said Joel Leja, an assistant professor at Penn State. What's shocking is that some of these galaxies are estimated to be 50 times more massive than previously thought, possibly rivaling the mass of our Milky Way when the universe was only 3% of its current age. This discovery could change everything scientists thought they knew about how galaxies form. A black hole blowtorch. That also sounds pretty ominous. This story just came out under a month ago. Astronomers have spotted a gigantic blowtorch-like jet shooting out from a supermassive black hole, which is causing nearby stars to explode. So, space is terrifying. The massive jet, stretching 3,000 light years, comes from a black hole 6.5 billion times the mass of our sun. The energy beam is so powerful that just being near it can be catastrophic for cosmic objects. Again, researchers have observed an increase in star systems exploding. We don't know what's going on, but it's just a very exciting finding, said study leader author Alec Lessing from Stanford University. He also said that the discovery points to gaps in our understanding of how black hole jets interact with their surroundings. Typically, supermassive black holes pull in matter, heating it up to emit light billions of times brighter than any star. They can also launch a enormous jets of energy that extend throughout galaxies. While astronomers understand that these jets shape galaxy evolution, the specific effects on nearby star systems are mostly unknown. The James Webb Telescope has recently spotted jets of ancient gas shooting out from a distant comet-like object called a Centaur. These findings are helping scientists understand how these centaurs formed, what they're made of, and how they eventually form into full-fledged comets. Plus, these centaurs can actually tell us a lot about the formation of the solar system. Centaurs are usually found in the icy Kuiper belt beyond Neptune, but gravitational nudges from Neptune or close encounters with stars can push some of them closer to the sun. There are over 500 known centaurs, but experts think there could be as many as 10 million out there. Sarah Faggy, a postdoctoral researcher at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, states, "Centaurs can be considered as some of the leftovers of our planetary system's formation. Because they're kept at very low temperatures, they hold on to important information about the early solar system." End quote. One centaur is called 29P Schwarzmann-Watchman 1, which spews out gas every 6 to 8 weeks, which I wish was the frequency for me. Nothing like not being able to lift your bed sheets without passing out from the horrific Dutch oven you've been forming all night. Anyway, for a space rock, it's spewing out gas pretty frequently though. The James Webb's near-infrared spectrograph revealed tons of carbon monoxide jets being shot out of it. What's causing these jets is still a mystery. Normally, comets produce jets when the sun heats water ice, causing it to vaporize, but researchers found no water vapor in 29P's jets because it's just too far away from the sun for that. Sarah Faggy's team suspected that 29P might not be a single object, but rather a collection of smaller pieces stuck together called contact binaries. Geronimo Villanueva from NASA said the fact that Centaur 29P has such dramatic differences in the abundance of CO and CO2 across its surface suggests that 29P may be made of several pieces. These centaurs, along with asteroids and comets, are ancient remnants from the solar system's formation, which means they hold clues about the early days of its formation. The next step is to keep observing 29P to see if the jets change, which could give more insights into its behavior and structure. Scientists have made an exciting discovery about the exoplanet GJ9827d, located in the constellation Pisces, about 98 light-years from Earth. This is another super-Earth, but this one has been found to have an atmosphere that is saturated with water vapor, with some calling it a steam world, which sounds like a place that would have a lot of mold and fungus and mushrooms, which I guess is all kind of in the same thing, but you know what I mean. Earlier this year, researchers using data from the Hubble Space Telescope confirmed the presence of water in its atmosphere, making GJ9827d the smallest exoplanet known to have an atmosphere, roughly twice the size of Earth. For years, scientists have focused on studying atmospheres of much larger planets. The lead study author on the project noted, "For now, all the planets we've detected that have atmospheres are giant planets, or at best, mini Neptunes. These planets have atmospheres made up of mostly hydrogen, making them more similar to gas giants in the solar system than to terrestrial planets like Earth, which have atmospheres dominated by heavier elements." End quote. Now, what's really cool about this small exoplanet is that its atmosphere is rich in heavier molecules with a substantial amount of water vapor, so very different from the atmospheres usually seen on larger planets. Now, the surface temperatures on GJ9827d are around 350 degrees Celsius, making it unlikely to support life, but this is still a great step in finding other planets with similar atmospheres to Earth that could be suitable for life. The James Webb recently spotted 6 planets drifting through space, completely unbound from any star's gravity. They're called rogue planets, and these 6 were seen about 960 light-years away, ranging from 5 to 10 times the mass of Jupiter. The reason why scientists are so interested in these rogue planets is because it challenges our understanding of how planets form. Traditionally, planets are thought to develop from leftover gas and dust during star formation, but these new findings suggest that massive planets can also form directly from collapsing gas clouds, similar to the way stars are born. Along Along with the rogue planets, they also detected brown dwarfs, mysterious objects that are larger than planets but smaller than stars. This isn't the first time the JWST has found free-floating planets either. In 2023, it recorded 42 pairs of gas giants known as Jupiter Mass Binary Objects, or JUMBOs, in the Orion Nebula. The researchers are still studying the planets to try and find out exactly how they formed. Speaking of Jupiter Mass Binary Objects though, let's talk more about them and the strange radio signals they seem to be giving off. So in 2023, the James Webb Space Telescope identified some rogue planets in the Orion Nebula. Among them, they found a pair of strange entities known as Jupiter Mass Binary Objects, JUMBOs. Researchers have found that around 80 of these rogue planets exist in pairs, orbiting each other at distances ranging from 25 to 400 times the distance between Earth and the Sun. The nature of JUMBOs is still a mystery. Scientists aren't sure whether they're true planets or something entirely new. Larger than planets, but smaller than brown dwarfs. Researchers have also detected strange radio signals from one of these jumbo pairs, specifically Jumbo 24. Using archives from the U.S. National Radio Astronomy Observatory, they discovered that Jumbo 24 emitted these steady, powerful radio waves equivalent to the energy release of a quarter of a ton of TNT. The signals are really unusual. Normally, when objects like planets have magnetic fields around them, their signals show a certain pattern called circular polarization, but Jumbo 24's signals don't have this pattern. The radio waves don't match the typical signals we see from known cosmic objects like planets or small stars like brown dwarfs. Researchers even thought about whether the signals could be coming from something behind Jumbo 24, but they think that's unlikely. Scientists are still looking into this, but at this point, Jumbo 24 is a mystery. Back in June, the James Webb Telescope uncovered a pair of baby stars known as binary stars, hidden within a previously identified protostar in the WL20 system about 400 light-years from Earth. Researchers had been observing this system for decades, focusing on a single protostar that was thought to be surrounded by a large disk of gas and dust. But the recent findings show that this disk might actually be made up of two separate disks. The JWST confirmed the existence of these two young stars, each emitting powerful energy jets parallel to one another. Mary Barsney from the SETI Institute said, quote, "What we discovered was absolutely wild. We actually saw that this one star was two stars right next to each other. The two stars are estimated to be between 2 million and 4 million years old, which sounds old, but that's just a tiny fraction compared to the Sun's 4.6 billion years. These are baby stars. Researchers believe that the remaining material from the disks around these stars could eventually form into exoplanets." The James Webb Telescope also made groundbreaking discoveries after it spotted a series of star clusters that could reshape our understanding of the history of the universe itself. Located in the cosmic gems arc, these clusters are believed to be among the oldest, forming just 460 million years after the Big Bang. The James Webb allowed scientists to identify 5 massive and dense star clusters within this arc. The clusters likely emerged during an intense period of star and galaxy formation. Now, unlike ancient star clusters in our Milky Way, though, which have been around for billions of years, these young clusters are giving them insights into the early stages of star formation and, by extension, helping them understand how the universe may have evolved. Astronomers using the James Webb just made a wild discovery of an exoplanet that almost slipped right through their fingers. Meet AF Leporis b, a young gas giant sitting 5,000 light-years away, which is about to disappear behind its parent star, making it incredibly hard to study. So astronomers had to move fast to catch a glimpse of it before it was lost in the light of the star. In 2023, this planet became the lowest mass planet ever discovered beyond our solar system by direct observation. It's about 3.2 times the mass of Jupiter, but it's much younger, only 23 million years old. Sounds ancient, but to put that in perspective, Earth is about 4.6 billion years old. So yeah, this one is just getting started. The James Webb Space Telescope has this cool tool called the coronagraph that helps block out the star's light so it can spot planets, but the closer planets get to its star, the harder it becomes to observe. At its current distance, the coronagraph can block out about 90% of the star's light, but this won't last for long. The team could have waited for 25 years until AF Leporis came out from behind the star, but that's just way too long to wait, so they had to rush. As Brendan Bowler, one of the astronomers on the team, put it, "We really are pushing the instrumentation to its limits here." And in the nick of time, they succeeded. They observed the planet's atmosphere, which was much more active than they expected. They even found more carbon monoxide than anticipated. But more than just what they found, the fact that they found it at all is a big deal. As Bowler says, in the big picture, these data were taken in JWST's second year of operations. It's not just about the planets we know about now, but the ones we'll soon discover. Just the other day, a story came out about the James Webb Space Telescope spotting a galaxy being born inside out. We're used to galaxies starting off as gas clouds that collapse under gravity, but now astronomers have spotted something totally unexpected. A galaxy that's forming from the inside out. Mate Jade's GS plus 53 18343A 27.79097. It's an unforgettable name, I know, but we'll just call it the Inside Out Galaxy from here on out. Researchers at the University of Cambridge spotted this galaxy, which seems to be forming in reverse. Cambridge's Sandro Tuchelas states that most galaxies start as, quote, small as gas clouds and collapse under their own gravity, forming very dense cores of stars and possibly black holes. And then, over time, stars start forming in the outer regions. But this inside-out galaxy is starting off with a super dense core, and the outer regions are growing at a crazy fast pace. Scientists didn't know for sure if this kind of galaxy even existed until now. Sure, they had some theories and models, but it's one thing to predict something and another to actually see it in action. And thanks to Webb's crazy powerful instruments, they've actually observed this inside-out process for the first time. One of the astronomers involved, William Baker, said it's like being able to, quote, check your homework. Before Webb, it was all just theory. Just last year, astronomers caught a glimpse of something seriously wild in the universe. An explosion so bright they dubbed it BOAT. Brightest of all time. How do these things happen though? Well, gamma ray bursts occur when a supermassive star basically blows its top, collapses and forms a black hole. But this black hole is so overloaded with all the material it's trying to suck up that it spits out beams of high energy radiation from its poles. Wild. Now, this particular burst was 70 times brighter than anything we've seen before. So bright, in fact, that it literally blinded some of the tools astronomers were using to observe it. And even though this cosmic explosion happened 2 billion light years away, its energy was so intense that if it were much closer, say 100 light years away, it would have vaporized Earth in an instant. TOI 270 is 70 light years away, and it's a terrifying place. It's what's called the Hycean planet. Planets that are mostly ocean, but not like the chill tropical beaches that we love. Instead, imagine a massive boiling ocean that's simmering at temperatures over 100 degrees Celsius, way over the boiling point. This planet is twice the size of Earth with almost 5 times its mass, and it orbits really close to its star, which means it has a blazing hot surface. It also completes an entire orbit in just 11 days. Imagine an entire year being 11 days long. Anyway, some scientists think that this planet is entirely covered in a vast boiling hot ocean, and some think the surface isn't water at all, that it's actually more like a sweltering hydrogen-filled atmosphere. Either way, this planet is just straight up terrible in any scenario, whether it's a boiling ocean or a burning hydrogen atmosphere. Turns out there are free-floating black holes roaming through space. Back in February of 2022, scientists discovered the first ever free-floating black hole, 5,000 light years away, drifting through space at a cool 28 miles per second. How was this thing spotted? Well, black holes are notorious for being black. They don't emit light, they don't reflect it, they suck up anything that gets too close, including light itself. But in this case, they figured it out by looking at something really subtle. The way this black hole deflected light from stars nearby. That tiny little bend in starlight was enough to tip the scientists off. This black hole likely came to be after its parent star exploded in a supernova. And when that happened, the black hole got flung through space at an incredible speed, and now it's out there in the galaxy, just floating around. Scientists think there could be millions of these rogue black holes drifting around in space. Not a very settling thought. WASP 107b is an exoplanet about the size of Jupiter, but only a tenth of its mass, so it's super low density and super inflated, almost like a giant balloon. But what makes this planet even more fascinating is what scientists just discovered about its atmosphere. Using the James Webb Space Telescope, they observed something that had never been seen before: an east-west asymmetry in the planet's atmosphere. The atmosphere on the eastern side of the planet is different from the western side. Matthew Murphy, one of the lead scientists on the study, said this is the first time the east-west asymmetry of any exoplanet has ever been observed as it transits its star from space. Basically, this planet is so far away that most of the time astronomers can't see what's happening on different sides of it, but with the Webb, they could finally do it. Why does this matter? Well, east-west asymmetry means there are significant differences between the two sides of the planet, and now scientists have the chance to study them in detail. Murphy went on to say, these snapshots tell us a lot about the gases in the exoplanet's atmosphere, the clouds, structure of the atmosphere, the chemistry, and how everything changes when receiving different amounts of sunlight. As Thomas Beatty, a co-author of the study, put it, for almost all exoplanets, we can't even look at them directly, let alone be able to know what's going on one side versus the other. So basically, this is a massive win for Webb and the future study of exoplanets. The James Webb Telescope has made some interesting observations about the Hubble constant. For starters, what exactly is the Hubble constant? Well, imagine the universe as a balloon and it's expanding in all directions. The Hubble constant is like the measurement of how fast that balloon is blowing up. The faster the galaxies are moving away from us, the higher the Hubble constant. And by knowing the rate at which the universe is expanding, we can figure out some pretty important stuff, mainly the age of the universe and what its future might look like. Most models say the Hubble constant should be about 68 kilometers per second per megaparsec. And now, what in the universe is a megaparsec? A megaparsec is about 3.26 million light years. Well, Webb's observations have thrown up some serious discrepancies. Instead of confirming the old value of 68, some scientists are now saying the constant is closer to 69.8 kilometers per second per megaparsec, and others have even suggested it could be higher than that. So what does that mean? Well, it could mean there's something that we're missing. Maybe our understanding of the universe's expansion needs tweaking, or maybe there's a bigger cosmic mystery that we've yet to uncover. Astronomers recently found the most distant black hole ever seen in X-rays, and it's revealing some pretty wild secrets about the early universe. This black hole is in a galaxy called UHZ1, about 13.2 billion light years away. It's a baby black hole forming just 470 million years after the Big Bang, but it's also a supermassive one. Most supermassive black holes you see today are a tiny fraction of the mass of their host galaxies, but this one is about the same mass as its entire galaxy, which is nuts. How young it is also a big deal because it could help explain how the first supermassive black holes formed in the universe. The team led by Akos Bogdan from Harvard and Smithsonian used a combination of NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory and the James Webb to spot it. The black hole's mass is estimated to be 10 to 100 million times the mass of the Sun. This suggests that it formed from massive clouds of gas collapsing. So it started out big rather than a smaller black hole that grew over time, devouring everything around it. Using the James Webb Space Telescope, scientists peered deep into the past and found carbon dust in 10 different galaxies that were formed just 1 billion years after the Big Bang. For a long time, scientists thought that heavy elements like carbon were made in the hearts of stars, then blown out into space when those stars exploded. Then cosmic dust from the explosion would gradually form into new stars, and eventually galaxies became richer in these elements over billions of years. Basically, it was like the universe slowly and steadily recycling. But the JWST found carbon dust in galaxies that are only 10 million years old, a whole lot younger than scientists thought galaxies could be so rich in carbon. 10 million years old is practically brand new in space terms. So how did these young galaxies become so heavy in carbon so quickly? Maybe there's a faster way for stars to form and spread carbon dust than we thought. And just think, if even dust can mess with our understanding of the forming of galaxies, imagine what other mind-bending things there are out there to discover in the vastness of space. And finally, about 4 months back, James Webb detected a massive collision of two asteroids. This collision happened in the Beta Pictoris system, 63 light years away, and that's a good thing because just the dust alone from the crash was 100,000 times heavier than the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. Astronomer Christine Chen from Johns Hopkins University has been watching this system for a while. Back in 2004 and 2005, she first spotted it using the Spitzer Space Telescope, a 20-million-year-old system with two gas giants, Beta Pictoris b and c. Fast forward to 2023, and with James Webb now on the scene, the difference is night and day. Webb gives us these super crisp, clear images that let scientists zoom in on even the tiniest of details. So when Chen and her team compared the old and new data, they noticed that two huge dust clouds they'd spotted earlier had mysteriously disappeared. After some investigating, they realized they were looking at the aftermath of a colossal asteroid collision. Chen and her team are calling this one of the first direct pieces of evidence of a collision like this, and it gives us a glimpse into how chaotic and dramatic space can be. Thanks to the James Webb Space Telescope, astronomers have made an exciting discovery. Two distant planets are literally falling apart, shedding their outer layers into space. This is the first time scientists have directly observed this. The first planet, K222b, is a rocky world about the size of Neptune. It orbits its star so closely that it only takes 9 hours to complete a full orbit. The star's intense heat is just roasting K222b though, with surface temperatures reaching over 3,300 degrees Fahrenheit or 1,826 degrees Celsius. The heat is so extreme that the planet's surface is vaporizing, and the evaporated rock is forming this comet-like tail. Jason Wright, a professor of astronomy and astrophysics at Penn State, called it a, quote, remarkable and fortuitous opportunity to understand terrestrial planet interiors, end quote. But K222b isn't the only planet falling apart. Another planet with the catchy title BD plus 054868AB was spotted by the Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, or TESS. It's the closest disintegrating exoplanet to Earth. As Nick Toussey, a graduate student at Penn State, put it, these planets are literally spilling their guts into space. They're learning a lot here. For example, they're noticing gases like carbon dioxide and nitric oxide around K222b, which is unusual for a planet like this. This discovery might help astronomers understand how planets are made and how they die. The JWST also made a groundbreaking discovery about the early universe this year, observing huge galaxies nicknamed red monsters that are forming stars at an astonishing rate. It's challenging everything scientists thought they knew about the growth of galaxies. The JWST has already shocked researchers by revealing that the early universe was filled with 10 to 100 times more galaxies than anyone expected, and some of these galaxies were way bigger and more organized than expected. At one point, scientists thought they'd found impossible galaxies so large they didn't seem to have enough material to exist, but after double-checking their data, they realized these galaxies were actually closer than they thought before, meaning they weren't as big. Out of 36 massive galaxies studied, 3 stood out as red monsters. These galaxies are converting nearly 50% of their available material into stars. To put this into perspective, that's 500 times faster than our Milky Way. But how did these galaxies get so big so fast? Well, one idea is that cosmic filaments, huge structures connecting galaxies, might have delivered gas more efficiently to these early galaxies. Or maybe supermassive black holes were helping things along by compressing matter and speeding up star formation. There's still a lot to figure out, but these discoveries are a huge step forward. Just recently, James Webb spotted this mysterious object cruising through our galaxy called SIMP 0136. This thing is either a rogue planet, way off course and alone, it is a SIMP after all, or it could be a brown dwarf. JWST's near-infrared spectrograph has been working over time to study this object, and they've already found some wild stuff like clouds made of iron and silicate particles, and there's carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide floating around too. All of this suggests that SIMP 0136 has a pretty bizarre atmosphere. It's also spinning super fast. Its full rotation takes just 2.4 hours. That gives Webb a chance to capture detailed data in record time. Even though we're still piecing together the exact chemistry of its atmosphere, scientists are excited about what we've learned. Webb's ability to pick up these details is pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible for studying objects light years away. Astronomers have also just come across one of the most distant supernovas ever detected. This This explosion, known as AT 2023 ADSV, took place about 11.4 billion years ago, just 2 billion years after the Big Bang. What's incredible is that it happened in a galaxy that was still in its infancy. The star that exploded was 20 times the mass of our Sun, and its death marked one of the most violent stellar eruptions ever seen. David Coulter, a researcher with the JWST team, said, "The first stars were considerably different than the stars today. They were massive, they were hot, and they had truly gargantuan explosions." So these early supernovas were much brighter and more violent than anything we see in today's universe. This supernova in particular might be one of the first signs that these early explosions were even more intense than what we observe with stars today. The early universe was mostly hydrogen and helium, with only trace amounts of heavier elements, which astronomers call metals. Stars started out from a basic mix of elements, but when they exploded, they spread heavier elements into space. These elements then helped create new generations of stars. This specific supernova gives us a rare look at how that all happened. In the constellation Canis Major, about 45 million light years away, there's a galaxy called NGC 2283 that's been in the news recently thanks to, of course, the James Webb Telescope. This galaxy has a central bar of stars in the middle, kind of like a straight line or stick. Around that bar are big curved arms made of gas and new stars that are still forming, creating this kind of spiral pattern. Webb captured the glowing clusters of stars lighting up the hydrogen gas around them, which is the main ingredient for creating new stars. But the process doesn't end there. When massive stars explode as supernovas, they send shock waves of gas and elements like oxygen and sodium flying through space, which then gets mixed into star-forming clouds, creating a cycle that fuels the galaxy's evolution. Speaking of supernovas, NGC 2283 is home to one called SN 2023 AXU, a Type II supernova. This happens when a giant star, at least 8 times the size of the Sun, collapses and explodes. This explosion is so powerful that it can trigger the birth of new stars from the debris, adding more gas and elements to the galaxy. Webb's infrared cameras captured this entire process, giving us some stunning images. The James Webb Space Telescope is certainly busy. It's also diving into the mysterious world of dark matter, a substance that some scientists believe makes up about 85% of the universe, but is completely invisible to us. So how's the James Webb gonna help? Well, scientists are setting out to study a candidate particle called axions, which could make up dark matter. Axions are unstable, and when they decay, they release light particles called photons. If the axions are out there, JWST could spot these photons, especially in infrared light. As Elena Pinetti, a theoretical astroparticle physicist, puts it, a successful discovery of this light would be groundbreaking, truly the discovery of the century, end quote. So basically what they're doing is detective work on this massive cosmic scale, sifting through the universe's noise to find clues that might hopefully lead to something that we're not even sure exists right now. Detecting these photons isn't simple. The photons JWST needs to find are extremely faint, and the light they emit could be hard to tell apart from other sources of light, but the telescope's high precision and the sensitivity to infrared light make it the perfect tool for this job. The challenge isn't just finding the photons though, it's knowing where to look. Researchers like Christopher Desert are exploring different regions in the Milky Way and beyond, and while axion decay may be rare, if axions make up dark matter, it should still happen often enough for JWST to detect. This search could potentially unlock an entirely new understanding of the universe, possibly revealing secrets that have been hidden for billions of years. The James Webb Space Telescope also just snapped an image of a young star called Herbig-Haro 30, or HH30, showing tiny dust grains that could one day turn into planets. Found in the Taurus constellation, HH30 is only about 500,000 years old, and still hidden behind a thick disk of gas and dust. You can't see the star itself, but its powerful jets and stellar winds collide with the surrounding material, creating shock waves that make the gas and dust glow. And these glowing areas help astronomers study how planets form. The dust grains in HH30 are super tiny, just a millionth of a meter across, but these little particles are amazing because they're the building blocks of planets. Then the denser parts of the disk, the dust sticks together, forming large clumps that eventually become pebbles, and over millions of years could become full-fledged planets. NASA is using the James Webb to study asteroid 2024 YR4, which has a small chance of hitting Earth in 2032. Right now, the odds are about 2.3%, which is a jump from 1.3%, which was just a few weeks ago. The numbers will just keep changing as more data comes in, but fortunately, the most likely outcome is it'll be a near miss. If the asteroid does strike though, the potential impact zone would stretch across parts of the eastern Pacific Ocean, northern South America, the Atlantic, Africa, and the Arabian Sea, and South Asia, according to the International Asteroid Warning Network. This asteroid currently tops NASA's list of potential threats with a rating of a 3 on the Torino Impact Hazard Scale. Scientists have estimated that 2024 YR4 is between 130 and 300 feet or 40 to 90 meters wide, but they're still not sure about its exact size and composition. That is where the James Webb Telescope comes in. Using its mid-infrared instrument, the telescope will make important observations in early March and again in May. These will give astronomers a much more accurate measurement of the asteroid's size. On a lighter note though, a Canadian-led team of astronomers has made a groundbreaking discovery about how young planets form, using the James Webb in a way that's never been done before. So they focused on PDS-70, a young star 370 light-years away that's surrounded by 2 planets in the early stages of development. This star is only about 5 million years old, and its disk of gas and dust is where the planets are forming. The team was able to get incredible detail about the planets and their environment. The telescope's tools allowed them to see how these planets are competing with their star for material to grow. Planets form through accretion, meaning they pull in gas and dust, and these planets are doing just that, expanding by gathering material from their surroundings. To get such a detailed view, the team used a special mask to block out the intense light coming from the star, letting them focus on the planets and their disk. The telescope also provided groundbreaking insights into the Phoenix Galaxy cluster this year, revealing why this galaxy is churning out stars at a crazy rate. Located 5.8 billion light-years away, the Phoenix cluster is the largest ever seen, and its core galaxy has been a mystery to scientists. Normally, the central galaxy in a cluster is red and dead, meaning it's done making stars. The Phoenix galaxy is pumping out 1,000 new stars every year, which is 1,000 times higher than the average galaxy. So how is this happening? Well, in younger galaxies, star formation is fueled by cold, dense gas, but the Phoenix galaxy is much older, so scientists couldn't figure out where its fuel was coming from. The breakthrough came when a team from MIT used JWST's infrared abilities to look deeper into the cluster. They discovered warm gas in the galaxy's core, a gas that's not too hot and not too cold. This gas is cooling down, providing the fuel needed for new stars. For the first time, we were able to map regions of the core where the gas is in an intermediate state between hot and cold, said the team.
Starting off our list today with exoplanet K2-18b, which just so happens to have an abundance of life-supporting molecules, meaning that it could very well have an abundance of life. In September of 2023, the James Webb Space Telescope, a highly advanced piece of equipment designed to conduct infrared observational astronomy using highly sensitive instruments that produce high-resolution images, discovered a large amount of methane and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere of the exoplanet located just 120 light-years away from Earth. Because of this, K2-18b, which is larger than Earth but still smaller than other giant planets in our solar system, is speculated to be a Hesian world, an exoplanet that features a liquid water ocean hidden beneath a hydrogen-rich atmosphere. If 1 light-year is 37,200 human years and the exoplanet is in fact inhabited by extraterrestrial life forms, it is entirely possible that in 4,464,000 years or sooner, if they started their journey before today, we could see aliens arriving on Earth from the newly discovered K2-18b.
Something, again, really cool about the James Webb Telescope is that it's sending us images from way back in time, and a recent observation may be making scientists rethink everything they thought about the very beginning of time as we know it. The James Webb Telescope recently found one of the key ingredients for life, carbon, from just 350 million years after the Big Bang, which happened around 13.8 billion years ago. The James Webb uses its near-infrared camera to capture images of distant objects, but because light from these objects takes a long time to reach us, we see them as they were in the past. This means the telescope is showing us what the universe looked like billions of years ago. Webb's latest discovery is a massive cloud of carbon in a far-off galaxy, and this is a very interesting finding because before, astronomers thought that carbon only started forming about 1 billion years after the Big Bang. So now they're thinking it might have actually formed much earlier. Since carbon is fundamental to life, this also means that life might have formed much earlier in the universe than we previously thought. Other life that could be somewhere out there as we speak.
Next up, we have lookalikes, Milky Way lookalikes, the Milky Way being our home galaxy, and the lookalikes being massive, mysterious galaxies almost as big as our own, spread out across the universe. They are unexpected, confusing, and for now, inexplicable. These galaxies are far too big, with red stars far too old for them to be new, which pisses off scientists because the images are in direct conflict with all existing ideas of how the universe might have looked in its early years. And it is likely based on the images that these galaxies formed just 500 to 700 million years after the Big Bang that created our universe. Not only that, but the images captured on the James Webb Telescope don't match any earlier observations made by the Hubble Space Telescope, Webb's less powerful predecessor. In response to the conundrum, Assistant Professor of Astronomy and Astrophysics at Penn State, Joel Leha, had this to say: "We had specific expectations for the type of galaxies that live in the early universe. They are young and small. This discovery is astounding because we're finding galaxy candidates that would have been as massive as our own galaxy when the universe was just 3% of its current age. While we don't know much about our universe, at least we know that we don't know much."
Next, we have some James Webb Telescope news released just in the past week. It observed a massive asteroid collision. Asteroid and collision, never two words you want to hear in the same sentence. Luckily, this happened very far away from us, but it does go to show just how dangerous asteroids are. The space accident happened in the Beta Pictoris system, which is 63 light years from Earth. The system is about 20 million years old, also very young compared to our 4.5 billion year old solar system. Christine Chen, an astronomer at Johns Hopkins University, shared the findings at a recent astronomy conference. She explained that Beta Pictoris is still forming, with two known gas giant planets, Beta Pictoris B and C, and lots of dust and debris, meaning that there is ongoing planet formation. Chen first observed Beta Pictoris with the Spitzer Space Telescope in 2004 and 5, but fast forward to 2003, and the James Webb Space Telescope gives us a much clearer view. Comparing the old and the new data, Chen and her team realized that two major dust clouds they'd seen earlier had now disappeared, so they figured there was a massive collision between two giant asteroids. This crash would have pulverized the asteroids into that dust that was observed earlier, and it's now dissipated. And the real scary part, they estimated that the dust cloud created by the collision was about 100,000 times the mass of the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs.
Next up, we have supermassive black holes. Any sentence involving both the words supermassive and black holes is sure to make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, or possibly get sucked into the void. Either or, let's talk about it. In 2023, the James Webb Telescope was used by astronomers to observe starlight from two early galaxies, one of which they believe to be the place where the very first supermassive black hole emerged from. Because of the distance and the speed in which light travels, astronomers were able to view snapshots of the galaxy that show what it would have looked like when the universe was younger than just 1 billion years old. For reference, today the universe is estimated to be 13.7 billion years old. Now you might find yourself wondering how this is at all scary, considering the fact that the images taken depict something that existed over 13 billion years ago. Well, I'll tell you why it's scary, because it illustrates the way in which, over time, black holes gain unfathomable masses by sucking planets and galaxies into their dull, lifeless voids. Just think about that as you fall asleep tonight.
Just last year, the James Webb Telescope picked up strange signals coming from distant rogue planets, which are planets that don't orbit stars. Astronomers have discovered that a pair of these planets, called jumbos, or Jupiter mass binary objects, are emitting mysterious radio signals that are rarely seen from other worlds. Luis Rodriguez and his team used data from the US National Radio Astronomy Observatory to find radio signals from the Orion Nebula and identified one pair, Jumbo 24, emitting steady and strong radio waves, and they're still not exactly sure what is causing these mysterious signals.
Next up, forget the dark night, because just 2 years ago in 2022, the James Webb Telescope just so happened to have possibly discovered dark stars, which in my opinion are way cooler. DC fans, please don't come for me. Anyways, in July of last year, 2023, astronomers released a report saying that what they originally believed to be galaxies might actually be something called dark stars. What are dark stars, you ask? Well, they're super bright stars, ironically, that produce enough light to compete with an entire galaxy of stars. Oh, and they are believed to be powered by dark matter, which is believed to be made up of substances originating from black holes. Cool? Cool. While this is pretty freaky, if scientists and astronomers are able to prove the existence of dark stars, they might just be able to rationalize how an incredibly young universe became host to so many large galaxies, just like the ones observed by the James Webb Telescope. Good old JWST.
More cool news came out just a few days back about a couple stars throwing space tantrums. Astronomers using the James Webb Space Telescope made an exciting discovery. A distant star previously thought to be a single protostar is actually a pair of baby stars. And this next part is pretty cool but kinda cosmically horrifying. The young stars are shooting out these insane energy jets as they grow, gobbling up gas and dust from their surroundings. The stars are about 400 light years from Earth, so luckily nothing for us to worry about. We can just sit back and watch them freak out with the comfort of being a very safe distance away. Scientists have been studying this system for about 50 years though. They'd identified a baby star named WL20S, which is surrounded by a large ring of gas and dust, known as a protoplanetary disk, but the James Webb confirmed that it's actually a pair of stars, and also revealed the presence of stellar jets, which are superheated material ejected by the star's magnetic poles. Mary Barsony, an astronomer with the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, or SETI, said, quote, "What we discovered was absolutely wild. We actually saw that this one star was two stars right next to each other. The two stars are binary stars, meaning they orbit each other. They probably formed from a single protoplanetary disk that split early on. The disks around the stars are about 100 times wider than the distance between the Sun and Earth, and researchers estimate stars are between 2 and 4 million years old, which sounds very old, but by space standards it's really not. That's just a tiny fraction of our Sun's age. There's also a good chance that planets will eventually form from the leftover material in these disks. Sadly, we'll probably never actually see them though.
Next up, inconsistent expansion, the possible end of cosmology as we know it, and the reason cosmologists are beginning to believe that our entire understanding of the universe is detrimentally flawed. Rough day to be a cosmos, dude. The issue was discovered last year when cosmologists realized that depending on where they looked, the universe was expanding at vastly different rates, which makes no sense. The phenomenon has been given the name Hubble tension, as it was the 2019 measurements taken by the Hubble Space Telescope combined with the 2023 measurements taken by the James Webb that brought the issue to light. And no, it's not a measurement error. They triple checked. What it is a significant lack in understanding regarding the universe. In response to the conundrum, lead study officer and professor of physics and astronomy at Johns Hopkins University said, "With measurement errors negated, what remains is the real and exciting possibility we have misunderstood the universe." Guess they're going back to the drawing board.
And finally, we have a hellish exoplanet observed by the James Webb Telescope called VHS 1256b. The planet sounds like a description of some abysmal realm in a horror novel. The weather on this planet is downright terrifying. Clouds swirling with sizzling, gritty flecks of sand, temperatures hitting 1500 degrees Fahrenheit, constant, brutal sandstorms, and when the clouds get too heavy, they probably dump sand-filled rain on the surface. Scientists recently used the James Webb to study this exoplanet, and aside from the extreme climate, they did spot some familiar elements in its atmosphere. There's water water, methane, carbon monoxide, and carbon dioxide. The days are also almost as long as Earth's, only 2 hours shorter. Discovering water and methane is pretty exciting because this means there could be life. On Earth, water and methane are linked to biological activity. Starting off the list with the discovery of unbelievable galaxies. These galaxies are nearly the size of the Milky Way, which scientists weren't expecting to see. So why is this? In these deep field images from the telescope, huge galaxies were observed, filled with mature red stars. They look like tiny reddish dots to the powerful telescope, and they came about at the beginning of time, about 500 to 700 million years after the Big Bang. So astronomers anticipated seeing young and small galaxies in the early universe, but the James Webb observations revealed massive galaxies with old red stars, very different from what they'd expected to see and very different from what the predecessor, the Hubble Space Telescope, observed. Joel Leah, an astronomy and astrophysics assistant professor at Penn State, explained that the galaxies appeared 50 times more massive than expected, with some reaching the mass of our Milky Way when the universe was only 3% of its current age. Next up, we have the discovery of jumbos. In 2023, the James Webb Space Telescope discovered over 500 rogue planets, meaning they don't orbit a star, in the Orion Nebula. Now, researchers have detected mysterious radio signals from a pair of these rogue planets. These planets are known as Jupiter Mass Binary Objects, or jumbos, which I'm going to call for the duration of this point. James Webb, with its ability to pick up infrared radiation, revealed that about 80 of these rogue planets exist in pairs, dancing around each other at distances ranging from 25 to 400 times the distance from Earth to the Sun. Scientists don't really know what to make of these things right now. In fact, they're not even sure if jumbos are planets or entirely new entities, larger than planets but smaller than brown dwarfs. So this is already strange, but it's going to bring us to our next mystery, and that is the mysterious radio signals these jumbos were giving off. So in order to understand these strange objects, researchers wanted to see if they emitted radio waves, as different cosmic objects produce unique radio emissions. They looked through archives of observations made by the US National Radio Astronomy Observatory and found that one pair, Jumbo 24, did emit radio waves. This jumbo pair is the heaviest and has the closest spacing between its two planets. The data showed that the radio waves from Jumbo 24 were steady and strong, with a power equivalent to 1/4 of a ton of TNT and frequencies of 6 to 8 gigahertz. But there was something very strange going on. The signals lacked circular polarization, which is the presence of magnetic fields, which you typically have with planets. The radio signals from Jumbo 24 were a bit unusual. They didn't match the patterns you'd normally expect from planets, brown dwarfs, or pulsars. The researchers considered the possibility of signals coming from an object behind Jumbo 24, but said that was highly unlikely. So they're doing more research into this, but as of right now, it's still a complete mystery. One of the biggest questions everyone has on their mind about space is, of course, is there life out there other than our own? It's one of the main reasons we want to explore it so badly, after all. Well, the discovery of a very interesting planet called K218b, we may have come closer than ever to answering that very question. The telescope found certain molecules in this planet's atmosphere that could indicate conditions suitable for life. K218b is an exoplanet located in the constellation Leo, about 120 light years away from our solar system. It was discovered in 2019, and ever since, astronomers have been pretty excited about it because of the signs of water vapor in its atmosphere. So this planet was always going to be a point of focus for James Webb. The telescope detected carbon-bearing molecules like methane and carbon dioxide in the planet's atmosphere. This means K218b may have a hydrogen-rich atmosphere and a surface covered by water, meaning there could very well be life. One of the coolest things the telescope spotted was a molecule called dimethyl sulfide, or DMS. On Earth, DMS is produced by life, specifically by microscopic organisms like phytoplankton. Now, scientists aren't 100% sure if they really detected DMS in the planet's atmosphere, but there's a chance, and that's pretty cool if it turns out to be the case. Next, let's talk about a terrifying planet that the James Webb Telescope spotted in 2023, VHS 1256b. This planet seems like Tatooine from Star Wars or Arrakis from Dune, except far worse. If you think sand is the worst and just gets everywhere, try living on VHS 1256b. This planet seems like absolute hell, caught in a never-ending sandstorm. But there are signs it has some similarities to Earth. The atmosphere shows signs of water, methane, carbon monoxide, and carbon dioxide. So there's a chance it could also host life. But aliens that live in a perpetual blistering hot sandstorm may not be the types of creatures we'd want to meet. Seems like they'd probably be a little frustrated. There's that classic saying, the more you know, the less you know. Well, if the James Webb Telescope has proven anything, it's how true that saying really is. It's now found discrepancies with how scientists used to measure the Hubble constant. So first of all, what is the Hubble constant? This refers to how fast galaxies are moving away from us. Imagine the universe as a balloon that's just constantly expanding, and the Hubble constant is the rate at which the balloon is getting bigger. The faster the galaxies are moving away, the higher the Hubble constant. It helps astronomers understand the age and future of the universe, but the rate at which the universe is expanding has never been 100% solved, so scientists figured the James Webb Telescope would be able to shine some light on it, but apparently it revealed more questions than answers. So most models suggest the Hubble constant should be around 68 kilometers per second per megaparsec. 1 megaparsec is about 3.26 million light years. Not something I can really wrap my head around because I and likely you don't really have any relatable reference for that. But the point is, some experts are now calculating the constant to be 69.8 kilometers per second per megaparsec. Others are giving even higher values. So there are questions about the accuracy of our measurements and definitely some gaps in our understanding of the universe. Next up, we have dust. Apparently this stuff is inescapable and has been around a lot longer than we once thought. And if that's not scary, I don't know what else is. Scientists using the James Webb peered into the past and found carbon dust in 10 different galaxies that existed just 1 billion years after the Big Bang. Now, this may not seem all that crazy, but this is actually kind of a big deal. You see, what scientists have always thought is that heavy elements like carbon were created in the hearts of stars. When these stars exploded, they scattered these elements as interstellar dust. Then new stars formed from this dust, making galaxies richer in heavy elements. But the JWST found this carbon dust in galaxies that are only about 10 million years old. That's way faster than their previous theories predicted for the buildup of heavy elements in galaxies. So the question is, how did these young galaxies get so rich in carbon so quickly? So, almost every large galaxy has one thing in common, a supermassive black hole at the center. But what came first, the black hole or the galaxy? Well, scientists once thought supermassive black holes only showed up later in the universe's timeline, after the first stars and galaxies formed. But surprise, the JWST data hints that these colossal black holes might have been around during the first 50 million years after the Big Bang. In the grand scheme of things, that's very, very early, basically the dawn of time. The team leader, Joseph Silk, explained that these early black holes could have acted like, quote, building blocks or seeds for the galaxies we see today. Instead of forming after the stars, they might have been there from the beginning, influencing star formation. So, the plot thickens. And black holes were already incredibly mysterious before. We really got to remind ourselves how incredible this planet is. Everything is set up perfectly for life to grow and flourish, unlike 55 Cancri e, which has sent out mysterious signals for almost 2 decades, but the mystery of these signals may have been solved. So this rocky world was discovered in 2004. It's around 8 times the size of Earth and sits about 40 light years away. The exoplanet's been emitting strange signals for almost 2 decades. A recent study suggests that volcanoes on 55 Cancri E might be causing these signals. Periodically, these volcanoes open up and spew out hot gas, forming a temporary atmosphere around the planet, but the extreme heat near its parent star causes this atmosphere to burn off, leaving the planet exposed again until the next outburst. And the mystery is the signals observed when the planet moves in front or behind its parent star, creating a sort of eclipse. Sometimes when it goes behind the star, there's no visible light coming from the planet. Other times, a strong visible light signal is emitted. This is because the planet's proximity to its star triggers outgassing. Giant volcanoes and thermal vents open up, releasing hot carbon-rich elements into the atmosphere. The problem is the planet can't hang on to this atmosphere for long because of the intense heat. It gets blown away, leaving the planet bare until the next outgassing event. So sometimes the planet has an atmosphere, and other times it doesn't, which is pretty odd. And finally, we have the discovery of the oldest known supermassive black hole in the universe. This black hole is luckily extremely far away, 13.2 billion light years away from Earth, to be exact. This also means we're observing it as it was about 470 million years after the Big Bang. I still find it nuts how these telescopes are basically looking back in time. This black hole is in a galaxy named UHZ1, and this black hole is believed to be born massive, with an estimated mass between 10 and 100 million times our Sun. The discovery of this thing has astronomers wondering even more about how supermassive black holes form. Did they emerge from the collapse of massive gas clouds or from explosions of the first stars? Apparently this one was massive from the start, meaning it could have formed differently than how other black holes are thought to form, slowly growing and expanding over time as they consume more matter. This one could have had a head start, expanding much faster than what the modeling used to suggest.